The galaxy was burning. For over 300 years, the alien empire known as Zarquan had ruled space with power and fear. They had destroyed planets, ended civilizations, and made all species bow before them. No one could stop them, but one. Species refused to kneel. Humans. Earth was small compared to Zarquan worlds. Humans had weak ships, less advanced weapons, and fewer soldiers. But they had one thing the Empire did not understand: hope. The war began 5 years ago. At first, the humans were pushed back. City after city on Earth's colonies fell. The skies burned red. Millions died. But still, they fought. Among them was a young pilot named Rain Carter. He was not a famous hero. He had no medals. He was not the strongest or smartest. He was just a soldier who followed orders and survived. Rain had lost his family in the early attacks. He never talked about it. He just flew his ship and did his job. Quiet, calm, focused. Some called him lucky. Others said he had death in his eyes. One day, Rain was called to the human space station Nova 9, near the edge of known space. He thought it was for a normal mission. But when he arrived, everything changed. A group of high-ranking officers sat in a dark war room. Maps floated in the air. Red dots, enemy fleets, covered most of the galaxy. Blue dots, human bases, were almost gone. General Harlow, a tough old man with a metal arm, looked at Rain. "Captain Carter," he said, "you are being sent on a mission behind enemy lines. Alone." Rain didn't react. He simply asked, "What's the target?" A scientist showed him a hollow image of a dark planet. It looked like a shadow floating in space. "This is Velar Prime, the heart of the Zarquan Empire. We believe they are building something there. A weapon. One that can wipe out entire solar systems." Rain raised an eyebrow. "And you want me to stop it?" "No," the general said. "We want you to see it. Get inside, find the truth, and send the data back. We'll handle the rest." Rain nodded. "When do I leave?" "Now." They gave him a small black ship, invisible to enemy radar. It had no weapons, only speed and silence. Rain entered the cockpit and flew into deep space, heading straight into the darkness. Days passed. He avoided enemy patrols, jumped through secret wormholes, and finally reached the edge of Velar Prime. Then, something went wrong. A strange energy pulled his ship off course. Alarms screamed. Controls stopped working. Rain tried to fix it, but the ship was falling fast. He crashed on the dark side of the planet. When he opened his eyes, he was not in his ship. He was in a cold, metal room. Alien symbols glowed on the walls. A soft humming sound filled the air. Rain's arms were locked behind his back. His head hurt. Then the door opened. And she walked in. Tall, powerful, covered in dark silver armor. Her eyes glowed like stars. Her voice was sharp like a blade. "So, you're the human who dared enter my world," she said. She was General Zirilla, the most feared warrior in the galaxy. The Emperor's right hand. The destroyer of worlds. Rain looked at her and said nothing. She walked around him slowly. Her soldiers stood behind her, silent and still. Everyone in the room looked at Rain like he was already dead. "You have no army," she said. "No weapons, no hope. Why are you here?" Rain finally spoke. "To see the truth." Zirilla paused. "The truth?" "Yes," he said. "I want to see what monsters look like." For a moment, there was silence. Then, she laughed. A cold, cruel laugh. "You're brave, human," she said. "Or stupid. Either way, you won't live long." She left the room. The door closed. Rain was alone again. But now he knew one thing for sure. He was inside the enemy's heart, and the war was no longer just about planets. It was about the soul of the galaxy. Darkness. Not the kind you see when you close your eyes. This was deeper, alive, breathing, Rain. Carter opened his eyes to that darkness. He wasn't in his ship. He wasn't on Earth. He wasn't free. Cold air hit his skin. His wrists were locked in metal cuffs. The floor under him felt like glass. There was no noise. Not even the sound of his own breathing. The lights turned on. Not normal lights, soft blue rings that glowed from the walls and ceiling. As if the room itself had awakened. He was inside an alien prison, and not just any prison. Velar Prime was the heart of the Zarquan Empire. A place where enemies disappeared. A place from where no one returned. Rain tried to stand, but the cuffs pulled him back down. He sat still, quiet, watching. A few seconds later, the door opened, and she entered. No sound, no footsteps. Just a presence, heavy, powerful. General Zirella. She didn't walk like a normal soldier. She moved like a storm calm on the surface. Danger underneath. Her armor shimmered like flowing metal. Her eyes glowing purple. Studied Rain like a scientist studies a new life form. Behind her stood 2 alien guards. Tall, motionless, like statues. Rain stared at her. She stared back. "Name," she said in a cold voice. He didn't answer. She stepped closer. "You entered our space. Crossed 3 restricted zones. Landed on Velar Prime. And you say nothing?" Rain gave a small smile. "You already know." "My name." Zirella's eyes narrowed. "You think this is a game?" "No," Rain said. "I think this is the part where you try to scare me." She leaned down, her face inches from his. "Fear is not something I need. You will break on your own." Rain didn't blink. "You're not the first alien who said that." She stood up, silent for a moment. Then she gave a signal. The guards turned and left the room. Now it was just her and Rain. "You are not special," she said. "That's what makes me dangerous," Rain replied. For the first time, a small crack appeared in her expression. Surprise? Amusement? Curiosity? No one talked to her like this. Not even her own people. She slowly walked around him. "You came to spy?" she asked. "I came to see what your empire is hiding." "And what do you think we are hiding?" Rain looked up at her, his eyes calm. "Something worse than war." That made her pause. There was silence again. Thick, heavy. Then she spoke. Not as a warrior, but as someone trying to understand. "Why would a human risk his life to come here alone?" "Because I'm tired of watching good people die." Her face changed slightly. Just for a second. "You think you're the only one who's lost something?" she asked. Rain looked at her. "No, I think you lost everything, and forgot what it felt like." She turned away sharply. "Enough," she said, voice sharp again. "You will be moved to level 7. We will study you. Then decide what to do." The door opened. Before she walked out, Rain said one last thing. "I know something about you." She stopped. "You don't follow orders blindly, you ask questions. That's why your emperor fears you." Her hand tightened into a fist. "You don't know anything," she said, and walked out. The door closed, but Rain knew he had touched something. Not just metal, not just armor. He had touched her mind, and maybe her doubt. Meanwhile, far above the prison, in the Emperor's chamber, a red signal blinked. A voice whispered in the shadows. "The human has arrived, and General Zirella is changing." Space is silent, but beneath the surface of Velar Prime, something was screaming. Not loud. Not with sound, but with energy. It pulsed through the walls. It echoed through the tunnels. It whispered through the shadows. Even General Zirella felt it. A pressure in her chest. A tension in the air that hadn't been there before. And it all started the moment the human arrived. Rain. Carter sat inside a small cold cell on level 7. No windows. No clocks, just time stretching like a rubber band. He had been watched, scanned, questioned, but no one touched him. Not yet. They wanted to study him. But Rain was studying them too. Every time a guard entered, he counted the steps. Every time the lights blinked, he marked the pattern. Every word, every movement, he remembered it all. He was a soldier, yes, but more than that. He was observing. In the command chamber, General Zirila stood alone, watching a giant hologram. It showed something massive, hidden deep inside the planet. A machine. Project Eraser. A weapon not designed to fight, but to delete. Delete planets, moons, stars. It used dark energy, stolen from collapsed suns. Power no life form truly understood. Zirila stared at it, her jaw tight. "It's not ready," she said quietly. "It doesn't matter," replied a voice behind her. She turned to see High Strategist Corvin, the Emperor's personal advisor. "The Emperor wants results," Corvin said. "This weapon ends the war. One shot, Earth gone. And what comes after that?" Zirila asked. Corvin smiled, cruel and empty. "Peace," she said nothing. But inside her, something twisted. Not fear, not weakness, a question. Back in the prison, Rain received a visit, but not from a soldier. A small alien child entered the cell silently, maybe 10 years old in human age. Skin like stone, eyes too large for his head. He held a plate of food and placed it in front of Rain. Rain looked at the boy. The boy looked back. "What's your name?" Rain asked softly. The boy didn't speak, but his eyes weren't afraid. He turned to leave, then he paused and dropped something near the wall, a small silver chip. Rain watched him leave. Then, when the cameras blinked off for 2.3 seconds, he moved. He grabbed the chip and slid it under the bed. He would wait. One moment at a time. That night, Zirila stood alone on a balcony overlooking the core of the facility. From this height, she could see it, the weapon. It glowed like a sleeping god. She whispered to herself, almost like a prayer, "Is this victory? Or the end of us all?" Suddenly, a voice came from the shadows. "You used to ask better questions." She spun, hand on her blade. It was Commander Vrel, her old rival, cold eyes, sharp smile. "The Emperor thinks you've gone soft," Vrel said. "A human survives under your watch. You delay testing. You speak of what comes after." "I follow orders," she replied. "Do you?" Vrel stepped closer. "Or are you beginning to remember who you were before all this?" Zirila didn't respond. She didn't need to. Vrel leaned in. "Careful, Zirila. The Emperor sees everything." Then he was gone. Later that night, Rain activated the chip. A small blue screen flickered open, hidden under the bed. Alien symbols danced across it, but Rain understood. He had trained for this. It was a data map of the entire facility, and at the very center, a red marked zone labeled ERSAR. Rain looked at the name. "Eraser," he whispered. His heart pounded. He didn't have weapons. He didn't have backup, but he now knew one thing. If this weapon was used, Earth would not survive. At the same moment, across the base, Zirila stood in her private chamber. She looked at a small metal box in her hand. Inside was a memory crystal. One she hadn't touched in years. It showed her. Before the armor, before the war, before she was general, back when she had a name, not a title, back when she believed in something else. Two people, on opposite sides, both beginning to question everything. The war had created them, but the truth was about to change them. Asterisk, it is easy to fight, harder to think, hardest to feel. And now, General Zirila was feeling something she had never felt before. Colonned out. Deep inside the black walls of Velar Prime, she sat alone in the echo chamber, a place used for silent meditation by ancient warriors. But Zirila wasn't meditating. She was listening to voices from her past, her mother, her teachers, her emperor. Feelings are weakness. The Empire is your blood. Mercy is a human disease. She closed her eyes, but one new voice echoed louder than them all. Rain Carter. You forgot what it felt like to care. Meanwhile, Rain was planning his escape. The chip the boy gave him had revealed more than just maps. It had shown weak spots in the walls, blind camera angles, and something unexpected, a restricted sector called Project Rebirth, hidden even from most high command officers. He didn't know what was inside, but he had a feeling. That's where the truth lived. He had to get there. And to do that he needed a key. And unfortunately, only one person had it. The next day, Zirila entered Rain's cell. No guards. No weapons. Just her. Rain was sitting on the floor, calm as ever. "What do you want today?" he asked. "More questions? More scans?" She didn't speak. She just looked at him. Then, softly she said, "Why did your people fight us?" Rain tilted his head. "We didn't want war, but we wouldn't kneel." "You chose pain." "No," he said, eyes locked on hers. "We chose freedom." A pause. Then Zirila sat down in front of him. For the first time, eye level. "Do you think freedom is worth all this death?" Rain didn't answer right away. He looked down. His voice was quieter now. "My brother died on Titan Station. He was only 17. He sent me one last message." "What did he say?" Rain looked at her, something sharp in his eyes. He said, "Don't let them take what we are." Zirila felt something in her chest tighten. A strange, unfamiliar weight. "What if your people are wrong?" she asked. "Then we'd rather be wrong, free." Silence. In that moment, two enemies sat together, not fighting, not shouting. Just seeing. Later that night, Zirila stood in front of a locked console. Her hand hovered over the panel. She could open the path to Project Rebirth. She had the codes. She had the power. But if she did, she would be betraying her empire. She closed her eyes and pressed her hand to the screen. Rain awoke to the sound of his cell door hissing open. Zirila stood there. No armor, just dark robes, eyes unreadable. "Follow me," she said. "Why now?" Rain asked. "Because something is wrong here, and I want to know why." They moved through the halls silently, avoiding cameras and guards. Zirila used old paths, forgotten tunnels, and secret lifts. Finally, they reached a black door with no symbols. It opened only for her, and inside was not a weapon. It was a room full of stasis pods. Hundreds of them, each one holding a human. Not dead, not hurt, just sleeping. Rayn froze. "These are prisoners," he whispered. Zirila stepped forward, her face pale. "No," she said quietly. "These aren't soldiers. They're civilians." She checked a panel. Earth ID numbers, ages, families. Rain's fists clenched. "Your empire said they were all killed." "We lied." Her voice broke slightly. "They were taken for experiments. Memory extraction, emotion mapping." "Why?" Rain asked. She didn't answer, because she already knew. Her emperor didn't want to win the war. He wanted to erase humanity, not just from space, but from memory. They stood in silence. Two warriors, two worlds, one truth. And now a choice. Rain looked at her. "Help me stop this." Zirila didn't speak, but she didn't say no. She looked back at the sleeping humans. Then whispered, "Meet me here tomorrow. I'll bring access to the core." Rain nodded. But as she turned to leave, her face changed. A red light was blinking on the wall. They had been seen far away. In the dark throne chamber of the Emperor, a new order was given. "She is no longer loyal. Kill them both. Trust is dangerous. In war, it can save you. Or destroy you." Zirila stood in the shadows of her private chamber. She stared at her own reflection in the mirror, a warrior carved in steel and silence. But tonight, the reflection felt strange, foreign. "What have I become?" she whispered. Not long ago, she was the Empire's most loyal general. She followed orders, crushed resistance, never asked why. Now she was helping the human escape, not because of weakness, because of something worse. Truth. Across the prison wing. Rain Carter was preparing. He had hidden a small plasma knife in his boot, stolen from a careless guard. His heartbeat was steady, but his eyes were sharp. He wasn't sure if Zirala would return. He wasn't even sure if she was telling the truth. But he was done waiting. If she didn't come, he would fight his way out. Alone, if needed. Above them, behind thick golden walls, the Emperor watched everything through a giant screen. His eyes were not like others. Cold, colorless, unblinking. He was older than anyone knew. Not fully flesh anymore. More machine than man. And his voice, though soft, carried power. She is no longer one of us. Shall I eliminate her? Asked Commander Vrel, standing beside him. The Emperor nodded once. Make it clean. No noise. No glory. Later, in the tunnels beneath Level 9, Zirala returned. She wore no armor, only a long black cloak, with a silver device hidden beneath it. She found Rain already waiting, standing still like a soldier before. Battle, you came, he said. So did they, she replied. She handed him the device. It was a core passkey, forged from her own DNA. With it, they could access the deepest vaults of the Empire. You sure about this? He asked. No, she said, but I'm sure about what I saw. Rain looked into her eyes. No lies. No mask. Only fire. They moved quickly through steel corridors, sliding past guard posts, into the main shaft that led to the planet's core. They were almost there. Almost. And that's when it happened. Betrayal. The lights exploded above them. Sirens screamed. Doors slammed shut, and from the smoke, Commander Vrel appeared. His armor glowed red. His blade hummed with dark energy. Traitor, he said, looking at Zirala. She stepped in front of Rain. You don't understand. I understand everything. Vrel cut her off. You fell, and now you burn. He attacked. Zirala moved faster than Rain had ever seen. Their blades clashed like thunder. Sparks flew. The hallway became a battlefield. Rain tried to help, but the security drones dropped from the ceiling. Forcing him back, he dodged and ducked, slashing wires and disabling one after another. But then Zirala screamed. A strike cut deep into her side. She fell. Vrel raised his blade, ready to finish her. She dies a traitor. No, Rain shouted, diving forward. He tackled Vrel into the wall, stealing his blade mid-fall, then stabbed it through Vrel's armor. The commander's eyes widened. He collapsed. Ray and crawled to Zirala. Her breathing was rough. Blood silver and thick poured from the wound. You shouldn't have come back for me, she said weakly. You did the same for me, he replied. She smiled barely. Then we're both fools. They didn't have long. More guards would come. And next time, there would be no mercy. Rain picked her up, despite her protests. Don't be stupid, she hissed. Already am, he said. I trusted you, remember? They escaped through a lower shaft, slipping into the waste tunnels, hot, dark, and crawling with steam. As they moved, Rain looked down at her. You risked everything. Why? She didn't answer for a long time. Then finally she whispered, because I saw something in you that I forgot existed in myself. Behind them, the alarms died. The system had reset, but the message had been sent. The Emperor now had a new target. Not Earth, not the rebellion, but the human who broke the Empire's strongest weapon and made her human again. The galaxy was quiet, too quiet, like the silence just before a storm breaks the sky, and deep inside Velar Prime, the storm was coming. Rain Carter stood at the edge of the core chamber, his body covered in dust and blood, not all of it his own. Behind him, General Zirala lay slumped against the wall, her breath sharp and fast. Her side was still bleeding, but her eyes? Still burning. In front of them stood a gate 30 meters tall, covered in glowing alien runes. Behind that gate, Project Eraser, the Empire's final weapon. A machine that could erase Earth in one shot. Rain looked at the console. Beside it, a countdown had begun. 0 hours 16 minutes and 24 seconds 16 minutes. That was all the time Earth had left. Zirila tried to rise, but her body wouldn't listen. Rain knelt beside her. "Stay down," he said. "You don't give orders," she replied. "And you don't know when to quit," he said, forcing a small smile. "Correct." She handed him a small metal key from around her neck. "This unlocks the override core, but it must be done manually." Rain stared at her. "Meaning one of us has to go in," she nodded. "And the door doesn't open again." Rain swallowed hard. "Of course it doesn't." They worked fast. Rain climbed into the control shaft while Zirila guided him remotely. The shaft led to the heart of the weapon, a swirling storm of energy, contained only by magnetic fields and prayer. One wrong move, and he'd be vaporized. Moved quickly but carefully, inch by inch. Every time he looked down, he saw Earth on the holographic display blue, peaceful, unaware. He couldn't let it end like this. Up above, alarms blared again. The Emperor knew they were inside. And he was sending everything. From the North Hall, a full squadron of elite guards marched forward, heavy armor, pulse cannons ready. Zirila pulled herself up. Her wound screamed, but her eyes sharp, clear, unstoppable. She grabbed 2 stolen weapons, dragged herself to the entrance, and waited. She knew they'd come, and she knew she wasn't walking away. "Come on then," she whispered. "Let's finish what we started." Rain reached the core. It was massive, alive, like a beating heart made of lightning. He inserted the key. The console lit up. A screen blinked. Manual override initiated. Confirm self-destruct. His hand hovered over the button. Then he heard her voice, faint over the cum. "Rain, are you there?" "Still breathing," he said. "Listen to me. If you press that button, you won't make it out." "Yeah, I figured." "You don't have to do this," she said. "Yes, I do." A long pause. Then she said something she never thought she would. "You changed me, Rain." "No," he replied. "You saved yourself. I just reminded you how." Outside the chamber, the guards reached Zirila. She stood in the center of the hallway, weapons raised. She fought like fire. Pure, wild, and bright. But they were too many. They shot her once, twice. She dropped to one knee. Still. She fired back, and she smiled. Not because she was dying, but because she knew he would finish it. Rain looked at the screen. 0 hours 0 minutes and 38 seconds. Times up, he whispered. And then he pressed the button. A blast of white light filled the chamber. The machine screamed. Metal cracked. Fire burst from its core. And then silence. Far away, Earth kept spinning. Its skies still blue. Its people still alive. They never knew how close death had come. They never knew who had saved them. Week later, the ruins of Velar Prime floated in space, broken and empty. Among the wreckage, a rescue team found a body, badly burned. Weak pulse, but alive. Rain Carter. They never found Zirila's body. Some say she died in the blast. Others believe she escaped, vanished into the stars. No one knows. But Rain keeps a small device near his bed. Every night, it lights up once. Just once. A message. No words, just a signal. From somewhere out there. She's still watching. Still fighting. Still free. Victory is not always loud. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it just leaves you standing alone. 1 month later, the war was over. The Empire of Zarquan had fallen. Their fleet scattered. Their cities silent. Without the eraser weapon, they had no power left to threaten the stars. Without General Zirila, they had no leader strong enough to keep them standing. And Earth? Earth survived, not because of a super army. Not because of politics, but because one man pressed a button and one alien warrior chose to stop being a weapon. Rain Carter sat on a hospital balcony, staring up at the stars. He had metal in his bones now, scars across his chest. Doctors called. It a miracle he survived the blast, but he didn't feel like a hero. He felt quiet. Still. As if part of him had been left behind in the heart of Velar Prime. A soldier walked up behind him. "Commander Carter," she said, "the Council wants to award you the Solar Cross. I didn't do it for medals." "I know," she said softly, "but people need to remember." He nodded. But inside, he remembered something else. Not a moment. A person. Her name was now a secret. Her legacy erased by the Empire. History called her the alien general who vanished. But Rain remembered her as something else. The woman who chose peace. Later that night, he sat in his quarters alone. He opened the small box he kept hidden. Inside was a silver chip, old, scratched, still working. He placed it on the table. It blinked once, just like every night. But this time, it didn't stop. A soft voice came through. One he hadn't heard in weeks. "You're still alive, human." Rain froze. "Zyrilla," he whispered. "I never said goodbye," she said. "I thought it would be easier." He smiled, just a little. "You saved me. We saved each other." There was a pause. "Where are you?" he asked. "Far, free, becoming something new." Another pause. "Will I see you again?" "Maybe," she said. "But I hope not." Rain blinked, surprised. "Why?" Her answer was soft. "Strong, because if we meet again, it means another war has started. And I want this one to be the last." The chip went silent. Rain sat there a long time. He didn't cry. He didn't speak. He just looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, a warrior who once knelt before him was writing a new story, not of battle, but of becoming. In the end, peace wasn't won by armies. It was made by a choice, one born in pain and held together by hope.